Okay, well, thanks for joining, Christina, Laura, and Patrick. We had a really big group last time. So maybe this, yeah, I'm not sure. But we're really grateful that the three of you could join us this morning and that you prioritized making time for it. So thank you. I guess maybe some housekeeping things. We were hoping that we could set a recurring meeting time just because there has been a lot of back and forth, and maybe that's what deterred some people from joining today. So that's on us. We were thinking that with the amount of content we perceive our group being able to generate on a consistent basis where it's meaningful to gather the group, we would probably meet every other month. And I suppose since Christina, Patrick, and Laura are our honorary members who attended today, we'll let you all have maybe the most input on if there's like I don't know if this time feels good, like 9 to 10 every other month on, I guess this is the first Tuesday of the month. I mean, if this is generally free and clear, we can make that easy. It's clear, at least for our groups, which is helpful. Children's Mercy, is that okay with you guys if we decide on that?
Works for me.
Okay, all right, done.
Love it. Great.
First Tuesday of the month, every other month at 9.
And just I'll add a housekeeping thing if that's okay.
Yeah.
Natalie does a really nice job of taking notes and sharing those notes out. You'll get them in your inbox, but even if you miss it, like I usually miss it, you can find them all on our website. And I posted the link there. There's only a couple up there right now, obviously, because the group's kind of just getting started again, but you can find those there. You can also find notes from all the other sectors. There are 9 other sectors that are meeting right now too, so you can see what other people are doing. So
Awesome. That's great. Okay. Well, Bailey, I can just kind of start going through things, but I think today is going to be a bit more conversational, a little less presentation-y than our last one. Next meeting would be Tuesday, August 6th. Thanks, Bailey. That's good to know. Okay. Cool. Well, so at that next meeting then, Robin, do you want to share really quick around the CDC stuff, since that's probably what will get presented at that meeting? And then the October one, I bet Bailey and I would be ready to talk through some of the data stuff, or we can wait if you're in the middle of something.
oh, I was just having a snack, that's all.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were just discussing that Children's Mercy and University of Missouri Kansas City received a quite large 5-year CDC REACH grant. We are about 3/4 of the way through year 1 of a 5-year project. There are 3 component areas for the project: nutrition and food access, expansion of family-based healthy weight plan programs. That's a clinical program. And then there's a physical activity component. So for the physical activity component, the majority of our work is in partnership with Bike Walk KC. We're doing also some other activities as part of that component. One of those other things that we did was in the spring, we met 2 different times with a small group of content experts to fill out what's called a CDC form called an Active Communities Assessment. And we evaluated things like policies and programs related to walking, biking, other aspects related to infrastructure in Kansas City, Missouri. So what we'd like to do at the next meeting here is share those findings with this group. One, to just kind of share what we found, and two, to just get your feedback on what you guys think of these findings. And hopefully some of that feedback, if it falls within the scope of the CDC project, we can kind of initiate some things there. If it doesn't, then maybe there might be things that this just kind of members of this group want to explore a little further. So that's kind of what I think we'll talk about at the next meeting. And we'll provide a lot more info, obviously, then. Any questions about that?
No
Yes,
questions, but a comment. I'm really excited about that and what we've already filled out, because Casey Moe is working on a streets design guide, and having that like list of targets to like be a healthy community in your policy. It's just like such a great tool for us to use as we're working on that streets design guide. So I'm excited about it too.
Yeah. And this is what we did was explicitly for Casey Moe, but it can be replicated in other municipalities. There are also other components to this that we haven't done yet that we can do, things like related to schools, and can't remember what the other components are, but it's really helpful. I'm glad Bailey and the city thinks it's helpful too. That's music to our CDC program officers' ears.
Good.
Big bonus points for that.
Cool. Thanks for sharing about that, Robin. That'll be nice to share with the group. So, okay. Any other housekeeping things? So, as a really quick reminder, when we met last time, which was I think in February, so time has gone by, but we were essentially reintroducing the infrastructure committee and sharing about what the goals of this sector are. And then we had a really nice conversation with the group about what types of things we could do as a project that were related to data, since that was one of the short-term goals from the infrastructure section of the Kansas City Physical Activity Plan. So the short-term goal is up here: collect and provide data in KC showing the connection between active transportation infrastructure and health. So the question that we're trying to answer in this group, and there's a million ways we could do this, but how does active transportation infrastructure influence health outcomes? And what we're hoping will happen long-term with that, probably well beyond the scope of this group meeting, the lifetime of the plan, is that there's just more active transportation infrastructure throughout the Kansas City region. So that's what is bringing this group together. So Bailey and I combed through all the different ideas that were presented at our last meeting. And I have those notes pulled up if anyone wants to go back and reference those. But what we came up with is doing a data collection project evaluating a corridor before some type of complete streets element has been installed. So that could be just like sidewalks being added, bike lanes being added, new transit stops, a road diet, road narrowing, other traffic calming elements, and wanting to use data. So some type of, counting method, and we're going to get into that today, to evaluate the corridor in its current condition, and then post installation evaluating how that's influencing activity. And so that's like the baseline area that we wanted to start with. But we also knew that we had gotten a lot of input about how we'd had like a conversation around quality of infrastructure in our conversation in our original meeting too. And so we were thinking that as like a secondary layer, like our first layer would be like, okay, these were the numbers of, you know, people walking, biking, and taking transit before there was some type of, you know, complete streets treatment. These are the numbers of those same users post complete streets treatment. And now we want to understand like that there's probably like some metrics that have to be evaluated. You know, we probably have to make like, we have to quantify something that's a bit more qualitative, but wanting to see if there's some way we can evaluate how the quality of what got put in may also be influencing usage. So that might have to be done separately. I'm not totally sure, but we wanted to make sure that was captured because that was brought up in conversation last time. The other layer that we thought could get added into this once we have that baseline data, maybe some conversation around the quality of the infrastructure that got installed and how that might be influencing usage, is also adding in some other available data sets that could help us understand like why people may or may not be using facilities as much or as little as anticipated. So these were some of the other metrics that we had come up with that we could evaluate, but yeah. So that's kind of the ABCs of what we were preliminarily thinking about wanting to do with this group. And maybe I'll just stop there for a moment, and Bailey, please feel free to add in, or Patrick, or if people have questions, we can chat here for a little bit.
Yeah, I think for the group wanting to discuss, yeah, that question, Laura, of where do we do these? Like, does anyone on this call know of projects happening outside of KCMO? Because like Cleaver Boulevard is, I guess, the one I've identified in Kansas City, Missouri to do pre and post, but trying to find at least a second location and maybe a third. So if you're aware of any others happening. What's happening in Joco?
I know one in, what is it, Laura?
So it's between Westwood and Roland Park. It's Mission Road from 47th Street down to 53rd. And it's not that there's going to be enormous changes to the configuration of the street, but they are moving the center line. They are implementing and refreshing crosswalks. There's going to be pedestrian scale lighting and bike lanes. So one thing though, which we may want to kind of just back slowly away from this one, however, I'll just put it out there, is the fact that there's a lot of contention because on-street parking on Roland Park side is at risk. And so they have a contingent of residents who are really upset about that. So at one of their public meetings, I really suggested to their council to consider doing the original design plan, which is what I just explained to you, and doing the collection, the data collection there, what the impact for the, I geared it towards what's the impact on parking, you know, but very easily could also just see how many more folks are using the sidewalks, the bike lanes and things like that. I'm just putting that out there as a seed because we're having difficulties with Roland Park. We say one thing and something, nobody on the calls from Roland Park, right? So.
No.
Is this in Roland Park, this
So
section of
it's an
Mission?
interlocal agreement between Westwood and Roland Park. So Mission Road is literally kind of the western border of Westwood.
Gotcha.
And so this street is prime for, you know, a CIP project. And because of our Westwood's Complete Streets policy, this one has been identified for the things I just said. So bike lanes, crosswalks,
Yeah,
pedestrian lighting.
awesome. Okay, well, that's
But like,
great.
back away from it. But I'm just putting it out there. I know it's not in Missouri, but
No, it doesn't have to be.
Yeah,
slated to happen fairly soon. I know some of the council and probably some of the residents could really be enlightened to see data collected around this. Roland Park's Complete Streets policy actually directs them to do pre and post data collection, and that never happened. So that's why they don't already have information on this corridor. So
were there by chance pre-counts done on 47th and Westwood from Rainbow to Mission?
they were, but they weren't really at a great time because of things like COVID.
Oh,
And then we had a huge delay with utility work because the gas company came in. And so like the demonstration project stayed up for a really, really long time. And then again, a bulk of that data was collected around COVID. A lot of anecdotal, you know, good stuff from like public safety, like the streets, vehicles are going slower. They are not writing nearly the amount of tickets they were for speeding. I mean, you can go out there any time of day and see folks of all different abilities and types using that whole area for walking, biking, scooting, sitting on the benches,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
okay. Okay,
There-
well, that's great to know. Does anyone else know of other Complete Streets projects, or I mean, even just like a bike lane that might be going in or a sidewalk that's being added? It doesn't need to be like a big blown up project.
Well, the ones I'm thinking about are the recently completed Planning Sustainable Places project on Southwest Boulevard, and Vine Street is wrapping up too. That's where I saw you most recently, Bailey. And so I'm thinking, you know, I don't think we have a timeline on construction of those, but I know that Tim Dugan is really pressing for that next phase of funding to get the engineering documents done on Vine Street. So there's a potential that that could move into at least its first phase of construction soon. And Bailey, you might know more about Southwest Boulevard progress and timeline. I know there's some water line work to do before any mill and overlay. But I was just thinking in terms of first count, like what is it, what's happening now? This might be a good time to do that for a future quantitative study in those two.
Yeah, thanks for bringing those up, Christina. And Patrick, I see your hand up. The Southwest Boulevard is likely moving, like would hopefully be constructed next spring to be resurfaced. And we're looking at doing like, you know, a phase 1 road diet of like, when we resurface, putting in the space for a cycle track that could be converted into a trail later, like the PSP has like suggested. And so that timeline would be next spring likely for construction, if we end up moving forward, which hopefully we do. But yeah, Patrick.
Yeah, I thought of a couple of things. Like the first is that some section of Knoll, I think it's in the northeast of Johnson County. The Johnson County Post was reporting that it was going to get a road diet. It wasn't really clear about what kind of bike ped improvements were going to be installed, if any, but yeah, that's something to watch out for. And then in general, it seems like a lot of cities throughout the region are building more shared use paths along roadways. I mean, Olathe has a whole plan to do this, and I think it's been doing a lot. Lee Summit has been doing a lot of that. And then you get more development of that in like Southern Overland Park, but also North KCMO. So I think we kind of have to get the cities to help us track those things and like when the implementation is going to happen, but they are doing it. So I think there's some opportunities to see how often those facilities are used.
Mm.
I agree, Patrick, because that does seem to be the strategy in a lot of the suburban communities
Mhm.
where they don't want to necessarily change anything about their existing roadway section, but
Right.
where they have, and in most places they have enough right of way that they're just adding in, I mean, pretty nice, like 8 to 10 foot, well, 6 to 10 foot wide,
Mhm.
like paved trails or, you know,
Mhm.
shared use paths. Yeah, that's an interesting one. That's over, like Overland Park does that too.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Robin.
I was just gonna throw out, of course, I love a good pre-post data collection. I think that you guys can also maybe think about complementing those types of assessments, with just some ongoing assessments in specific locations where there are already complete streets designs in place. I think that there is value in showing that, in this neighborhood where Complete Streets was done 5 years ago, they still have X number of walkers, bikers, traffic is lower, blah, blah, blah. And you can even pick a section of street elsewhere where there's not those things, and you can say, meanwhile, half a mile away, there's this with nothing. There are higher rates of speed, fewer walkers, bikers. Those have value too. So you can think about those too. And I think, as you prioritize sounds like there's room in the budget for a couple different options.
Mhm.
Yeah, there is. That's a good point. Probably like the most limiting factor is just like staff time to evaluate things, but Bailey and I can probably, between the two of us, come up with a good way to evaluate it. And yeah, maybe we do have money that we could do multiple. So yeah, that's a really good point.
The other thing I was just going to say is, and I don't know exactly how it works, but I was just reading an article today about, the streetcar finishing touches in the next couple years.
Yeah.
And, I think that
Yeah.
there's going to be increased pedestrian traffic around hopefully the whole thing, but certainly in spots. So you can maybe think about doing something there. It's hard now because there's a lot of construction, but
this might take us on just a wee little detour, but I guess 2 questions. Bailey, do you know if there was any pre-counts for activity along Main Street? And then are there like other complete streets elements being added along the extension, like, I don't know, wider sidewalks or anything like that?
I don't know how many counts there were. I have counts at Main and Cleaver. So specifically at that intersection, I've got pre-counts, I guess, but I know they are looking to add more enhanced pedestrian things. In fact, they've been like changing things from the final design to make it more pedestrian oriented because maybe the first design wasn't. So there's like a couple locations where they were looking to maybe remove a slip lane and
Oh, great.
do other things. I don't know where they're at on that, but I know they were looking
Yeah.
into these things. Yeah.
That's great. Okay. That's awesome. You got pre-counts. Well done. That's great. Do you know what year those are from?
2023 in May.
Cool.
Yeah.
That would be an interesting one. That could be one that we could look at, like if we like this idea and want to like keep moving forward with it, something we could do, next summer, I guess, probably around this time next year.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, it would probably be nice if we could pick one together as a group today, but maybe we'll keep chatting and that might inspire how people want to think about where we might start. I'll just add this in super quick. Bike Walk KC, when I was explaining to Eric Rogers, like what we were thinking we were going to do in the infrastructure committee, he mentioned that through another grant that we have noise monitors and are able to get the data collected from those noise monitors analyzed. So he just suggested that if that would be an interesting component of a pre and post complete streets or traffic calming implementation, it might be interesting to know whether or not there's any significant reduction in noise. Maybe that wouldn't be so true on the streetcar line if the streetcar is noisier than other transportation vehicles. I'm not really sure, but that's something that Bike Walk KC has. It wouldn't add any cost. So that's something that we could throw in here in addition to bike ped or multimodal counters if we wanted to.
That's awesome. Have you guys ever done air quality along with that?
Yes, that was part of a grant from last year, I think. Or Laura, was that where we were like attaching air quality and monitors to?
We have a couple of air quality monitors. To my knowledge, they weren't ever deployed because then collecting and analyzing like the data afterwards, we were trying to work with I want to say Clean Air Now.
Yeah.
Or something, and communication was difficult, and so that I don't really think got off and running. But we have a couple of monitors, just so if there's others out there, maybe we could all pool our resources.
Yeah.
We
Exactly.
had a small grant and I bought about 5 for Clean Air Now, and I think only 1 was deployed. We could maybe touch base with them again and say, you know, hey, since we didn't really use them for this other project, do you have any interest there? Yeah, communication can be off and on, but
Yeah, I don't know how they
Something that-
work, but that would be neat to put out there as well.
I was working with Beto Lugo, I guess.
yeah, and
Clean
he
Air
does
Now, is that
have,
the same for you, Robin?
yeah, he does have like a partner that is maybe is new since you were working with him. I'm blanking on her name right now, but she is generally responsive. Yeah.
Cool.
A
Bailey?
question for Children's Mercy folks, and it doesn't have to be answered right now. I have had some of those residents along Cleaver getting noise counts with like the app that is available on Apple devices, and you know, they're sending me these measurements, which is great, and it's crazy because like there are times the road is like in the 90 decibel range, 90 to 100. Which seems high. Like when I get a little decibel comparison chart, it's like, I don't know what compared to, but I was like, whoa, that's really loud. And so I just don't know if you have any like handy dandy little charts on like what is like an unhealthy level to be like living by. Because I guess it's probably not like the max level decibels that I need to be looking at, more so as just like the constant noise that they experience in like the 70 to 80 range, of like, I don't know. Yeah, I just don't know how to like evaluate or compare that. So if you have information.
I don't, but I did send you just this morning, so you probably haven't even seen it.
Okay.
The medical director for our environmental health department, her contact info, and she said that she'd be happy to answer questions. So,
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, no, I haven't seen it yet.
yeah,
Thanks.
no problem. I actually worked with her on the project with Clean Air Now. So, she
Okay.
also does air stuff.
Awesome.
Bailey, I don't know if you've been in contact with Dr. Francisco over at the health department,
Oh, yeah.
because he did a comparison of sleep and noise and things like that. I think last year or the year before, so he might have some information on, particularly like data comparison,
Okay.
on that. So.
Sweet. Thank you.
Christina, I saw that you asked if maybe we could work with NOAA to help with the analysis. Will you elaborate a little?
Yeah, I just wondered if Clean Air Now doesn't have the capacity to do the analysis at this time, whether there are other larger national partners. There's a local regional NOAA office that may be able to help with some of that analysis if we've got the monitors, especially for air quality. But no one to do the analysis. Perhaps they could fill a gap there. But if the grant was written specifically to work with Clean Air Now, I may be off base. So that was just my thinking.
That's a great idea. I don't know. I'm not super familiar with that grant that Bike Walk KC had. Do you know, Laura, or I guess Robin, since Children's Mercy has them too?
For me, it's been a moment, so I can't quite remember. But yeah, maybe Robin, you have a little bit better memory, but also again, things just kind of got jumbled with that one. It stopped and started a little bit as to what I knew.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I didn't have
Yeah.
video. I see
Yeah,
you nodding.
we had trouble with ours getting into schools. It was a school-based assessment. We couldn't get into schools. So even though, yeah, we just never even, I think we deployed one, but we were just kind of gave up on even analysis. And so, yeah, so I don't know beyond that. Yeah.
Well, maybe we can give them a second
Yeah.
life. Yeah, I mean, that would be really neat. I mean, I think both of these elements, noise and air quality, are actually getting into some of what Bailey and I had thought about as like a third tier of evaluation of these
Yeah.
other metrics that influence whether or not people are utilizing, like, it's just interesting, like, what if we have a really, quote, nice complete streets construction that goes in, and then for some reason the numbers are a lot lower than we thought they would be, and we're trying to figure out why. I mean, maybe there's elements like this that, can add some nuance to whether or not projects are as effective as we want them to be. So, okay, I think those are great things for Bailey and I to look into.
And even, like what Laura was saying, people might be resistant to like take away their parking because that directly influences their day-to-day life. But then if you can show them, even if you don't walk or bike, your noise and air quality is gonna be improved. And so,
Yeah. Right, there are other data points we can use to bring skeptics, maybe.
yeah, wasn't that a big
That's
concern
awesome.
on Meyer, right? What you guys found is that people really complained about the noise on Meyer Boulevard. I think I remember
No.
Mike
Michael and Rogers mostly worked on that. I cannot say for sure. But you're probably right. Patrick, does Mark monitor noise, air quality, or, that feels like a Mark thing.
I'm not aware of any noise monitoring going on.
Okay.
We do have a big, like air quality program. We do monitor air quality, but I don't think those sensors are very mobile. They like just from what I know about this, I can direct you to Karen Clausen if you'd like to learn more. But
Sure.
those sensors seem just very stationary. Like that
Okay.
factors into how they do their methodology. And so I don't think we could do those on kind of temporary deployment basis.
Yeah. I guess, is there a map anywhere that shows where those sensors are located? Do you know?
We should have something somewhere.
Okay, I can ask Karen too. I just was
Yeah.
curious, because that would be interesting, like if for some reason we don't want to or don't have capacity to deploy the air quality monitors we do have, if Mark happens to have maybe a monitor in proximity to a project. Air doesn't exactly maintain boundaries. So
No.
it's kind of difficult to track in that regard, but yeah, okay, we'll ask Karen about that.
Mhm.
Okay. Cool. Okay. Well, I guess I don't know, Bailey, Children's Mercy, what do you think? Is there value in kind of talking through our thought process and what we were thinking with the counters and maybe where we're landing from a cost-effective perspective? What do you think?
Yeah, maybe I'll just talk a little bit of some of what Teresa and I and Patrick have talked through before this meeting on this idea of getting like pre or post counts or just getting counts on Complete Streets projects. We looked into the idea of like us purchasing counters through this like project, but Mark and Patrick are already like looking to do that and looking to buy new counters for the region, which like cities or entities can use, I guess, as a rental, right, Patrick? I don't know if you want to talk about your timeline or process there.
Yeah, we used to have a set of eco counters that we would kind of loan out to cities and counties. They'd maybe want to get some counts along a trail or something. And so we'd go out and deploy an eco counter model out there or two. And the batteries on those all kind of reached the end of their lives. And so we don't really have those available anymore. So we were going to buy new ones because they're just super old models and replacing the battery wasn't worthwhile, at least not to eco counter. So we're trying to figure out that process. The market for bicycle pedestrian counters is kind of narrow. It's people have lots of different technologies. So just trying to work through that. So far it looks like we'll probably go with eco counter models again. But I at least am kind of intrigued by this one other vendor that does kind of like microwave radar devices. And yeah, just we'll explore those, keep exploring those options. I'm hoping the sooner the better, because we're getting into summer and that's when people really start riding. So yeah, hopefully we can get that done sooner than later.
Awesome. Yeah, so because Mark is already looking to like buy new equipment, I think an eco counter in particular, like the leading vendor, is going to start requiring a like yearly subscription to get access to their stuff. We're like leaning away from the idea of the infrastructure group like purchasing counters and instead leaning on already available counters in the region. One being using Marks potentially, and another option being the MyoVision counters that Bike Walk has access to. where we could put in a proposal as the infrastructure committee on a certain number of intersections or corridors, looking at getting pre-counts and post-counts, or just getting counts at multiple times, like once a year at different spots or something, like mentioned on already installed projects. And so looking for the group's insight or thoughts on going forward with a proposal to do that, where we would propose like the $375-ish, whatever the rate is now. It might have increased, who knows, for MyoVision processing, and then Bike Walk's labor to install those counts. And then Teresa and I would put together the report as your leads of the infrastructure group. But what we would need is just, what does the group think of that, and how many places would you guys think is appropriate to do this, or would be beneficial? So, yeah, any thoughts? I think I don't know the maximum we can ask for. I forget, it's like $10,000. So we could ask for a lot, but I don't know.
15 at 15 right now,
Okay.
and there may be a couple grand more available later, but 15,000 is the number to shoot for.
Okay.
That can
Which
be.
we might need some of that. I don't know what costs might be if we want to add noise and air, but maybe that's something that could help address, like, if there were capacity issues with clean air now, like maybe we could, if we had some additional funding. I'm not totally sure, but yeah. But Christina, go ahead. I saw you take yourself off mute.
I was just wondering, at each intersection, would we need 2 monitors? Would we need them looking in the other direction, or just one at each intersection?
Just one. They can be positioned in a way where you can see. Usually we can find a pole where we can get the whole intersection. So at least to my knowledge, Bike Walk has never put more than one up at an intersection. Bailey, do you know?
Yeah, I guess when I used to set up MyoVision cameras on intersections that were so big that did need 2 cameras, we usually charged the same labor, because you're just bringing both cameras out at the same time, but having to set up 2. And MyoVision charges the same processing fee, whether it's 1 video input or 2. So they can take in 2 video inputs for the same intersection, but it's the same cost for them to do that.
Cool.
So. Dun, dun, dun. I guess if we want, like, I'm trying to think on realisticness of getting a report this year, like we would need to know projects happening this year, right?
Yeah.
Like what's for sure getting built. And then like maybe we can add on projects and getting pre-counts for ones that would be installed next year, because it's better to get the pre-counts, in the summertime, or, not in the middle of the winter. And so maybe that's something we look at doing. I personally, maybe selfishly, want to get pre and post counts on the Cleaver project. Well, I already have the pre-counts, so would love to get post counts on that after it's installed this summer. I think the Johnson County project sounds awesome if it moves forward. I know, Laura, you may be a little hesitant on if it is, but maybe that's a great one as well.
Another one that Teresa and I worked on recently was out in Mission, on the Rock Creek Trail. So that might be another one we could do pre-counts on.
Rock Creek Trail. Are they adding on to the trail, or is it a new trail?
Well, there'll be an additional, the trail is hard to make out in certain areas. So it's kind of enhancing its identity and brand. And then along the roadways that it follows to adding some additional sidewalks and bike path space as well.
Cool.
Yeah, the Rock Creek corridor kind of runs in between Martway and Johnson Drive. Oh, I wonder if they got pre-counts on Johnson Drive.
I wonder too.
Let
me ask Wilson about that and I can get that back to the group.
Thank you. Yeah, that would be awesome. Okay, they did, for if people aren't familiar, Johnson Drive, I don't know, it might have been between like Roland Drive and somewhere else, but kind of straight through like downtown Mission. They they added angle parking and cut out a lane of traffic, but it was a little interesting because there was some fear around adding bike lanes. And so they took away a lane, but that was it. And so they actually have like 14-foot wide drive lanes now, but just like one in each direction. And then they added some mid-block crossings and like some ped scaled lighting. And like enhance the connectivity to the park that's like right across the street where the farmers market is hosted. And it's interesting because with this other project Christina is mentioning that we just did, business owners along Johnson Drive were like, oh yeah, we actually really like the road diet, so we would like it if they would do more now. So it was really interesting, like they're really scared. The implementation came and it was sort of a compromise, and they were like, oh, okay, actually this has been nice, like we should do more. So that might actually be a really interesting one. So yeah, Christina, let us know what you find out.
Okay.
Especially since the city of Mission also has a bike ped plan, a draft of it that's going to their planning commission, I think at the end of this month. And they have a newly adopted comp plan. So there's like some bike ped momentum in Mission. What were you gonna say, Robin? Oh, sorry. No, go
Yeah,
ahead.
go ahead, Christine.
Oh, I was going to say that little stretch along Martway too, that goes between Knoll and Roland has a lot of new multifamily residential development on it. And so I think they're highly motivated to complete that kind of pedestrian and bike improvement on that little stretch of Martway too. I'll send a screenshot or something of the area we're talking about.
Go ahead, Robin.
I was just going to say that your comment that you had about the businesses liking those complete streets, you know, you hear this a lot, and those types of sentiments are often, well, they are missed when you just do counts. You know, like what we've been talking about. So maybe it might be something that this group wants to talk about is, in addition to doing these myovision counts or pedestrian counts or whatever you're going to call it, having some sort of qualitative elements as well, because, you know, and Bike Walk is great at this. I know that like often those personal stories are more meaningful than, you know, 27% change in something, you know? So just a thought for the group.
Yeah. For the Mission or Rock Creek corridor, what locations do you think like counts should be obtained? I guess probably like on the trail itself, if it's an existing trail. And then where else?
Well, I wonder for this one, we could probably put it at, the Knoll intersection, like right where the Cap Fed like plaza is, because they're wanting to do intersection improvements, specifically that intersection, better integrate the trail connectivity across that intersection. Plus the Mission Transit Center is just east of there along Martway. So like, yeah, probably like the Knoll Martway intersection. Like if we were just gonna do one, but we could probably put another one at, is it Woodson? That was the western terminus of the study area. I don't know. What do you
That's
think,
right.
Christina?
I like that. I like the Martway and Knoll. That is a really difficult intersection to cross for peds and bikes. So that's a key one that we heard a lot about, that Martway and Knoll intersection. But I wonder if we could even get a, like, I don't know, Reed's Road and Johnson, just because that's kind of where the trail comes closest to Johnson Drive, and where there's that outdoor farmers market area, and like the most connection between the businesses and the Rock Creek Trail area too.
And you know, I forgot about this, but there was another sub-consultant on that project, Brown and Associates, or I don't know, but
TJ?
TJ Brown and Associates, yeah, that did I think just bike ped counts at certain spots, and those would be from 2023. And those were integrated as part of the project. So we do have bike ped counts. I think they might have been just like peak hour counts. So it might not fully be like apples to apples, but it's definitely something.
Absolutely.
And
Is
I
that-
think I have all those spreadsheets, actually. They shared those with us from the project.
What's the installation timeline on that project?
I'd have to ask our client contact in Mission how that's
Okay.
moving forward. Carrie, yeah.
I feel like, yeah, we have 3 minutes left on the call. But I'm feeling like Teresa and I need to gather after this meeting and maybe like put together a proposal of what seems reasonable for this year and bring it back to this group, maybe via email.
Yeah.
And hear comments and feedback and thought, and then we can prepare like basically a cost proposal to take to the Kansas City Physical Activity Leads group, who approves project costs and things, and see if they approve it. But I feel like we might need another interim step before we go there. So does that sound okay to everyone?
Christina, will you let us know what you hear back from Carrie on timeline? Because I think if it's, if they have something they can share with us on that would, that would be helpful for Bailey and I to know as we think about what seems the most realistic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll just reach out to her and loop you both in. And
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, so Natalie, will you send out the meeting notes and announcement for the next meeting and give people, okay, cool. And then Bailey and I will reach out and give you guys a proposal on what we're thinking. We'll put together some costs and yeah, keep things moving forward. I feel like that's probably something Bailey and I can do with relative quickness. Yeah, Robin?
I just had one final announcement before people leave. We're having our quarterly meeting for the Kansas City Healthy Lifestyles Collaborative. Is that what you just posted, Natalie? We were thinking the same thing. That's Thursday, so if you're interested in joining either in person at the Kaufman Foundation Center or virtually online. If you come in person, you get free frittata and coffee.
Thank you.
Enticing.
Yeah, enticing is right.
Okay, thank you, Christina, Patrick, and Laura for joining us. We really, really appreciate you all spending an hour of your time with us. So thank you.
And
well
Natalie,
said.
Kelly, and Robin for all your help too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Woohoo!
You guys
Okay.
are a great
Everyone.
group. Nice job.
Happy Tuesday. Bye, guys.
Bye.